Hello, in this video I am going to explain how to answer the questions in the Edexcel GCSE Maths Paper 2 from November 2021, the Foundation tier. The purpose of this video is for your learning and understanding, not just the answers. There are of course other videos out there. Write 31% as a fraction. 31% means it's 31 out of 100. So as a fraction, we have 31 over 100. And for 1 mark, that is all we need to write. Change 3 meters into centimeters. For this question, I am going to use the headings centimeters and meters. We know that 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. We are converting 3 meters. To go from 1 to 100, we need to multiply by 100. Do the same over here. 3 multiplied by 100 is 300. So for 1 mark, we need to say the answer is 300 centimeters. And for 1 mark, we can just write the answer. Write the following numbers in order of size. Start with the smallest number. For this question, I'm going to rewrite the numbers, but this time make sure that the place values line up. The easiest way to do this is to make sure the decimal point lines up. The first place value that we start with to order is the units, which is over here. The smallest unit is 0, so we need to start with these two numbers. Then we need to focus on the next place value, which is this one and this 2. That means the smallest number is 0.12, and now I can cross it out. The next number is 0.21. Again, I can cross it out. Now that we've used up all the zeros from the units, we can focus on the ones. Again, now we need to move on to the next place value, the tenths, and we have a 0 and a 2. That means the next number must be 1.02 and then 1.20. And for having each one in the correct order, we have 1 mark. Simplify this expression. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 lots of m. 4 lots of m means 4m. And that is our 1 mark answer. Simplify 12p divided by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3, so the answer for 1 mark is 3p. The diagram shows a rectangle. On the centimeter grid below, draw an accurate scale drawing of this rectangle. Use a scale of 1 centimeter to represent 5 meters. So we have the grid and we have the diagram. We are told that 1 centimeter is equal to 5 meters. We are told that the length is 35 meters on the diagram. The width is 20 meters on the diagram. To go from 5 to 1, we need to divide by 5. We need to do the same over here and over here. That means the length on the grid will be 7 centimeters and the width on the grid will be 4 centimeters. Now, for having both of these values, we have 1 mark. Then we need to accurately draw the rectangle. We have the 4 centimeter line, then the 7 centimeter line, then the 4 centimeter line, and again the 7 centimeter line. For having drawn this accurately, we now have a second mark. Here is a list of whole numbers from 21 to 30. Part A. From the list, write down a square number. A square number is a number that's been multiplied by itself. So we have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and so on. The only square number in this list is 25. and that is all we need to write for 1 mark in Part A. Part B. From the list, write down a multiple of 8. That means a number in the 8 times tables. 1 times 8 is 8, 2 times 8 is 16, 3 times 8 is 24, 4 times 8 is 32, and so on. The only number in the 8 times tables in this list is 24. For 1 mark in Part B, that is all we need to write. A baker has 3 bags of flour, A, B, and C. Bag A and bag B contain the same amount of flour. Bag C contains 940 grams of flour. In the 3 bags, there is a total of 2,500 grams of flour. Work out the amount of flour in bag A. For step 1, we need to do the total subtract the amount in bag C. So 2,500 subtract 940. We get 1,560. That is our first mark. Step 2, we are told that bag A and bag B contain the same amount. That is why we are going to do 1,560 divided by 2. That is our second mark. We end up with 780. That means in bag A, there is 780 grams of flour, and that is our third mark. 5 students throw a dice. They each throw the dice the same number of times. The diagram gives information about the number of times the dice lands on each number. Work out how many times each student throws the dice. For step 1, we need to work out the total number of throws. We have 6 ones, 4 twos, 5 threes, 8 fours, 7 fives, and 5 sixes. So to work out the total, we need to do 6, add 4, add 5, add 8, add 7, add 5. We get 35, and that is our first mark. To work out how many times each student threw the dice, we need to do 35 divided by 5. Remember, they threw the dice the same number of times. For writing this, we now have our second mark. We end up with 7, and that is our third mark. Alec needs to work out the value of 2 add 3 multiplied by 4. He writes 2 add 3 equals 5, 5 multiplied by 4 equals 20, so 2 add 3 multiplied by 4 must be 20. Alec is wrong. Explain why. Alec must do 3 multiplied by 4 first. His answer should be 14, not 20. And that is all we need to write for 1 mark. Write 17 as a fraction of 30. That means the denominator is 30 and the numerator is 17. And that is all we need to write for the 1 mark. Reflect shape A in the mirror line. For this question, I am going to do it corner by corner. This corner is 1, 2, 3 away from the mirror line, so we need to go 3 downwards. 1, 2, 3, so it will end up over here. The next corner, this one is 1, 2, 3, 4 away from the mirror line, so we need to go 4 downwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, so it ends up over here. And lastly, this corner is 1, 2 away, so we need to go 2 downwards. 1, 2. Now, using a ruler, we need to join up all the corners. For having this exact diagram, we would have 2 marks. For having the correct reflection but in the wrong position, we would get 1 mark. Part A. Work out the following. Write down all the figures on your calculator display. If you have a Casio calculator, first type in the square root button and then the fraction button. For the numerator, type it in as 13.82, and for the denominator, type it in as 4.06. When you press equals, your answer should be 1.84. For having written this much, we get 1 mark. Continue, and it's 4977205. And now we have a second mark for part A. Part B, give your answer to part A correct to 2 decimal places. That means we need to go to the decimal point, count 1, 2 and draw a wall, underline the 4 after the wall, and because that 4 is less than 5, our answer to 2 decimal places is 1.84. And now we have 1 mark for part B. RST is a straight line. Work out the value of x. We need to do x equals 180 subtract 75 subtract 84. Now we have 1 mark. The value of x is 21, and that is our second mark. The question then says, give a reason for your answer. We need to say angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. And now we have our third mark overall. Nazima uses this graph to find out how much money she is paid for the number of hours she has worked. Part A. How much money is Nazima paid for each hour she works? We need to go to 1 hour on the hours worked, draw a line upwards until we get to the straight line. Then go across. Because it's between 10 and 20, it must be 15. So for 1 mark in part A, we need to say £15. The question then says, last week Nazima worked for 36 hours. Part B, how much money was Nazima paid? We have hours and we have the money. 1 hour is worth £15. Nazima works for 36 hours. To go from 1 to 36, we need to multiply by 36. Do the same on the other side. We now have 1 mark for part B. 15 multiplied by 36 is 540. That means Nazima was paid £540. And that is our second mark for part B. Write the following fractions in order of size. Start with the smallest fraction. For this question, I am going to convert every single fraction into a decimal. To do that, we need to do the numerator divided by the denominator. 5 divided by 8 is 0.625. 2 divided by 3 is 0.666 recurring. 4 divided by 9 is 0.444 recurring. And lastly, 3 divided by 5 is 0.6. I'm going to put 0, 0 to help with the ordering. Now we have 1 mark. I'm going to focus on the tenths. We have 6, 6, 4 and 6. That means the smallest one is the 4. So the overall smallest fraction is 4/9. Cross that out from both lists. Now we can focus on the hundredths. We have 2, 6 and 0. 0 is the smallest, so the next fraction is 3/5. Cross that out from both lists. Out of 2 and 6, 2 is the smallest, so the next fraction is 5/8. That means the biggest fraction is 2/3. And now we have our second mark. The pie chart gives information about the colour of each car in a car park. There are 135 black cars in the car park. Part A. Work out the number of white cars in the car park. I am going to use the headings degrees and cars. We know that 90 degrees represents 135 cars. We need to work out how many cars 80 degrees represents. To go from 90 to 135, we need to multiply by something. To work that out, we can do 135 divided by 90. That gives us 1.5. Now for part A, we have 1 mark. Now I can write 90 multiplied by 1.5. That means I must do the same over here. And now we have a second mark. The answer is 120, and that is our third mark for part A. The question then says, there are 50 grey cars in the car park. A car in the car park is picked at random. Part B. Find the probability that this car is grey. For probability, we need to write it as a fraction over the total number of cars. So again, we need degrees and cars. We're going to use 90 degrees represents 135 cars. The total number of degrees in a pie chart is 360. If we want to, we can go downwards and multiply by 4 and do the same on the other side. That would get us 1 mark. Or we can do what we did in part A. We can go across and multiply by 1.5. Either way, we would get 1 mark for part B. The total number of cars is then 540. That means the probability is 50 over 540, and that is our second mark for part B. 60 people are asked if they prefer to text or to email their friends. 38 of the people are women and the rest are men. 15 of the men prefer to email their friends. 60% of the people prefer to text their friends. Complete the frequency tree for this information. We are told that there are 60 people altogether. That number has already been filled in. The second sentence says 38 of the people are women, so we can write that over here. And now we have 1 mark. The rest are men, so we need to do 60 subtract 38. That gives us 22. And we can write that in. Now we have a second mark. 15 of the men prefer to email their friends, so we can write that 15 over here. To work out how many men prefer to text, we will do 22 subtract 15. We end up with 7. And that is our third mark. 60% of the people prefer to text, so we need to do 60% of 60. That means 0.6 multiplied by 60. We get 36. To work out how many women prefer to text, we need to do 36 subtract 7, and that gets us 29. And now we have a fourth mark. To work out how many women prefer to email, we need to do 38 subtract 29, and that is 9. And now we have our fifth mark. The incomplete table gives some information about the lengths of the planks of wood in Ben's workshop. The total length of these planks is 92 meters. Work out the number of planks of length 2 meters in Ben's workshop. As we do not know how many 2-meter planks Ben has, I'm going to call this P. Now we need to add a third column. I am going to call this total length. To work out the total of his 5 3-meter planks, we need to multiply, and we get 15. To work out the total of his 8 2.5-meter planks, again we need to multiply, and we get 20. To work out the total length of his 2-meter planks, we need to multiply, and we get 2p. The total of his 1.5-meter planks, we need to multiply, and we get 21. And lastly, the total of his 1-meter planks, we need to multiply, and we get 10. We know that overall the total is 92, and now we have 1 mark. To work out what this 2p is equal to, we need to do 2p equals 92, the total, subtract 15, subtract 20, subtract 21, subtract 10. That means 2p is equal to 26. And now we have a second mark. If 2 lots of p is equal to 26, to work out p, we need to do the opposite of multiplying. We need to divide both sides by 2. That means the number of 2-meter planks that Ben has is 13, and that is our third mark. Rachel, Samina and Tom share £600 between them. Rachel gets 2/5 of the £600. Samina gets 1/4 of the money that is left over. Tom gets the rest of the money. Tom says, I would have got more money if we had shared the £600 equally between us. Is Tom correct? You must show how you get your answer. For step 1, I am going to work out how much Rachel would get. To work out 2/5, we need to do 600 divided by 5 for 1/5, and then multiply that by 2. We end up with 240. That is our first mark. Step 2, we can work out how much Samina gets. She gets 1/4 of the money that is left over. So first we need to work out how much is left over. That is 600 subtract 240. So left over is equal to 360. To work out 1/4 of 360, we need to do 360 divided by 4. That means Samina gets £90. And now we have a second mark. Step 3, to work out how much Tom would get, we need to do the £600, subtract Rachel's amount, subtract Samina's amount. That means Tom would get £270, and that is our third mark. Tom says that he would get more if the £600 was shared equally. That means we need to work out what that equal share would have been. We need to do 600 divided by 3, and that is £200. Finally, to answer the question, is Tom correct? We can say no, and remember to always justify, because £200 is less than £270. Remember, he was trying to say that it would be more than. And for writing this with the values, we now have a fourth mark. Simplify c to the power of 5 divided by c squared. When the base is the same and we are dividing, we need to subtract the powers. So we need to do 5 subtract 2, which is 3. That means the answer is c to the power of 3. And that is all we need to write for 1 mark. Simplify d to the power of 4 all cubed. When we have indices and brackets, we need to multiply. We need to do 4 multiplied by 3, which is 12. So for 1 mark, our answer is d to the power of 12. And that is all we need to write for that 1 mark. Write down the inequality shown on this number line. Because the circle is above -1, we can say x and then something -1. Because this arrow is pointing at all the numbers on the right, our inequality symbol is also pointing towards the right. Because this circle is empty, the symbol stays as it is and it is not more than or equal to. So for 1 mark, this is all we need to write. On the number line below, show the inequality -3 is less than or equal to y, which is less than 4. If we focus on this part, the symbol has an equal to underneath. That means we need to draw a circle above -3 that is filled in. Now we can focus on this part. There is no equal to underneath. That means we need to draw a circle above 4 that is empty. Then we need to join it up. If we have a line joining up points from -3 to 4, we get 1 mark. If the circle above -3 is filled in and the circle above 4 is empty, we get a 2nd mark. Find the highest common factor of 60 and 84. I am going to use the upside down bus stop method. A common factor of 60 and 84 is 2. 60 divided by 2 is 30. 84 divided by 2 is 42. A common factor of 30 and 42 is 6. 30 divided by 6 is 5. 42 divided by 6 is 7. The only common factor of 5 and 7 is 1. So now we stop. And so far we have 1 mark. The highest common factor is the product of the left-hand side. So in our case it is 2 multiplied by 6 and we get 12. And that is our final answer and our 2nd mark. Find the lowest common multiple of 24 and 40. Again, I am going to use the upside down bus stop method. A common factor of 24 and 40 is 4. 24 divided by 4 is 6. 40 divided by 4 is 10. A common factor of 6 and 10 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. The only common factor of 3 and 5 is 1. So now we stop. And now we have 1 mark. For the lowest common multiple, we need to multiply the L shape on the outside. So we need to do 4 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 5. And we get 120. And that is our 2nd mark. Sam drives his car on a journey. Here is the travel graph for the first 15 minutes of his journey. Work out Sam's speed in kilometers per hour for the first 15 minutes of his journey. I am going to use the headings distance and time. We know that the time is 15 minutes. His distance for those 15 minutes is 20. So under distance we can write 20. We want the speed in kilometers per hour. That is 60 minutes. To go from 15 to 60, we need to multiply by 4. Do the same on the other side. And now we have 1 mark. 20 multiplied by 4 is 80. That means Sam's speed is 80 kilometers per hour. And that is our second mark. At 10:15, Sam stops for 10 minutes and then drives for 20 minutes at a speed of 75 kilometers per hour. On the grid, complete the travel graph for Sam's journey. If he stops, we need to draw a horizontal line. Because it says it's for 10 minutes, we need to do 10:15 add on 10 minutes, which takes us to 10:25. We need to draw a horizontal line up to 10:25. Now we have 1 mark. Moving on, we need 2 headings, distance and time. If the speed is 75 kilometers per hour, that is 75 kilometers per 60 minutes. Sam drives for 20 minutes. To go from 60 to 20, we need to divide by 3. Do the same on this side. 75 divided by 3 is 25. And now we have a second mark. 10:25 add 20 minutes is 10:45. 20 kilometers add 25 kilometers is 45 kilometers. So we need to draw a straight line up until this point. And now we have a third mark. Part A. Complete the table of values for y equals x squared subtract 2x add 2. To find the missing y values, we need to type into our calculator -1 squared in brackets, subtract 2, and then brackets again, and then add 2. We will end up with 5. And do that for all of the missing y values. Remember to use brackets. If we have 2 or 3 of the values correct, we would get 1 mark. For having all of them correct, we would now have 2 marks for Part A. Part B. On the grid, draw the graph of y equals x squared subtract 2x add 2 for values of x from -2 to 4. We have to look at each one of these as coordinate points. We need to mark on these coordinate points. So the first one is -2, 10. Then -1, 5. And then 0, 2. 1, 1. 2, 2. 3, 5. And finally 4, 10. For plotting all of them correctly, we now have 1 mark for Part B. For joining them up with a smooth curve, we would get our second mark. Part C. Use the graph to find estimates of the solutions to the equation x squared subtract 2x add 2 equals 4. We need to draw a straight line that goes through y equals 4. That is this horizontal line. Then we need to find the x coordinate where the horizontal line and the curve meet. This point is -0.75, and that is our first mark. The second one is 2.75, and that is our second mark. Here is a right-angled triangle. The shaded shape below is made from two of these triangles. Work out the perimeter of the shaded shape. Give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. I am going to label this hypotenuse as x. If this hypotenuse is x, so is this one. To work out this missing length over here, we need to say that it's the hypotenuse, so x, subtract the base, which is 10. To work out what x is, we need to use Pythagoras, as we are working with 3 lengths on a right-angled triangle. So for step 1, we can say x squared is equal to 8 squared add 10 squared. Now we have 1 mark. That is 164. To work out just x, we need to square root 164. As this is not my final answer, I will leave it as square root 164. This is my second mark. For step 2, I can start working out the perimeter. Remember, perimeter is the total distance around the outside of a shape. I'm going to start from this corner over here. Instead of saying x, I'm going to say square root 164. Add, instead of saying x subtract 10, I'm going to say square root 164 subtract 10. And then I continue, add 10, add 8, and finally add 8. Now I have a third mark. That is 41.6124, and it goes on. The question tells us to round this to 3 significant figures. So we have 1, 2, 3. As this number after the wall is a 1, we need to round down. So our final answer is 41.6 millimeters. And now we have a fourth mark. ABC is a right-angled triangle. Work out the length of BC. Give your answer correct to 1 decimal place. I am going to call BC x. We are working with 2 lengths and an angle, so that means this is a trigonometry question. We can label x as opposite. We can label the 12 centimeters as adjacent. AB has not been given to us, nor have we been asked to work it out. Therefore, I will not label it. The trig ratio with O and A is TOA. As we are working out the opposite, I am going to cross out O. That means I can write the formula as opposite equals tan theta multiplied by adjacent. Now we need to substitute. We have x equals tan in brackets 56 multiplied by 12. We now have 1 mark. This is 17.7907 and so on, but we have been told to round to 1 decimal place. If we draw a wall after this 7 and focus on this 9, we must round up, and it is 17.8 centimeters, and that is our second mark. PQR is a right-angled triangle. Work out the size of the angle marked X. Give your answer correct to 1 decimal place. This question has 2 lengths and an angle, so again we are using trigonometry. We can label this 15 as adjacent and this 18 as hypotenuse. The trig ratio that has A and H is K, and we are working out an angle, therefore we need to cross out C. We can write the formula as cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. When substituting, we can write cos x equals 15 over 18. Now we have 1 mark. To work out x, we need to do cos inverse and then in brackets 15 over 18. We get 33.5573 and so on. We must round that to 1 decimal place. Draw a wall after the first decimal place. That 5 means we must round up. We end up with 33.6 degrees, and that is our second mark. Solve x squared subtract 7x subtract 18 equals 0. To solve this, we must factorize. To help me with my factorizing, I am going to use this table. We need two numbers that multiply to give us negative 18, but add up to give us negative 7. First, I'm going to try 9 and negative 2. The product is negative 18, but when I add them, it's 7. This will not work. If we now swap the negative sign and make it negative 9 and positive 2, the product is still negative 18, but this time the total is negative 7, which is what we want. So now I can rewrite this equation as x subtract 9 in brackets and then x add 2 in brackets equals 0. Now we have 1 mark. To solve this, we need to say x subtract 9 equals 0, which means x must equal 9, and that is our second mark. Now do the same for the second bracket. X add 2 equals 0, which means x must equal negative 2, and that is our third mark. In a sale, the normal price of a boat is reduced by 15%. The sale price of the boat is £272,000. Work out the normal price of the boat. If something has been reduced by 15%, we need to do 100% subtract 15%. That means our sale price is 85% of the normal price. Now I'm going to use two headings, percent and pounds. We know that 85% is worth £272,000. We want to know what 100% is worth. A common factor of 85 and 100 is 1. To go from 85 to 1, we need to divide by 85. 1 multiplied by 100 will get us 100. Do the same on the other side. If we divide by 85, we get 3,200. We must then multiply this by 100. Now we have 1 mark. This gives us 320,000. That means the normal price of the boat is £320,000, and that is our second mark. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day.